Hello and welcome to VR Vertigo. So, behind me you'll see Death Stranding is playing. And this is a game that I initially thought would make a great VR conversion. I mean, it's got, at its basis at least, all the prerequisite things. It's a great story, it's visually stunning, you get to walk around, and as the game progresses, you get to acquire vehicles. You can use weapons, although that's not the actual mainstay of the game. Combat is there, but it's not crucial. The idea is to move around and get the packages to your location safely, which is easier said than done, because who thought that walking could be such a precarious process? So, Death Stranding, as I've just mentioned, is a wonderful game with a wonderful storyline. It's in depth and, as you can see, quite beautiful. But there are some issues. For instance, part of the game's conceit, if you like, is to carry packages, and you stack these packages on your back, and you can get to a kind of weird tipping over point because you can stack these packages so high you're effectively carrying a tiny little skyscraper of packages on your back. How many times can I say the word packages? But you can see it there. The packages are awkward. They're heavy. They impact you and the way you play. And if you play that out in VR, you won't necessarily see the packages. There would be small little things that you could do to intimate that. I mean, certainly the gameplay would still be there. You could still find it very difficult. But how would that be in VR? Trying to balance yourself constantly. I suffer from vertigo. I've mentioned it once or twice. And would this be vertigo inducing? You can see Sam there running with a package. He's struggling up a hillside. And in this particular clip, you can see him being dragged across the terrain by his packaging because they're so unwieldy, so top heavy. I would love to see what a VR developer did with that. But here's the thing. Death Stranding is such a wonderful game with such unique gameplay. I think it's worth the effort. I think the opportunity to wander around that world that we're looking at there is worth the time and the money to bring it to VR. Not to mention the other aspects of the game, like the various recreational aspects that we see here on the screen to my left, where you can wander around your apartment, you can mess about, you can get drunk, amongst other things. Another difficulty that I foresee with this game is that Norman Reedus is a huge part of the game. The cachet that he brings to a game as an actor, as a performer, can't be understated. And if you did bring Death Stranding to VR, I think you would have to somehow change that. And for me, in terms of a plot line and a story, you would end up being one of the other couriers. So for the purposes of a VR version of Death Stranding, you would effectively play yourself, not the Norman Reedus character. And all the thing that Norman Reedus does in the game, you would do but as this other person doing the job that Reedus is doing. How wonderful it would be to stumble across something that the Norman Reedus character had placed in the world in a VR version of Death Stranding. So would it be worth the effort? Absolutely. It absolutely has to come to VR at some point or another. And we can do without the conceit of the Norman Reedus character in favour of us playing just another courier, connecting disparate communities in this world. My view is that Death Stranding VR would be an utter triumph. Also, as an aside, are you telling me that Hideo Kojima didn't look at this masterpiece that he's created and think, you know what? This could make a really great VR game. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, bye-bye.